girls. Dr. Butchie here with another story for you. This one is about a painter. He was called an action painter, a drip painter. His name is Action Jackson. This is a book by Jan Greenberg and Sandra Jordan, illustrated by Robert Parker. And Action Jackson's name was actually Jackson Pollock. Does some really neat artwork. In the afternoon, Jackson Pollock puts on his paint-splattered boots and walks across the yard. The wind blows in from the gardener's bay, bringing the scent of salt marshes and sea lavender. His eyes miss nothing: sunlight on the tree branches, tangled stalks of blackberry bushes, beetles crawling in the grass underfoot. Caw-Caw, the crow he tamed, flies down and lands on his shoulder. His border collie, Jip, runs in circles, demanding a walk across the fields and down a country road to the wide, sandy beach, but Jackson turns and keeps going. So he lived out in the country, kind of where he did all of his creating. I'll show you a couple of his paintings. The gray weathered barn used to be filled with rusted machinery, old fishing gear, and broken tools. Now it's his art studio, a place for painting. Some artists put a canvas on an easel or hang it on a wall. Not Jackson. He spreads his out like a sheet, smoothing it flat with his large hands. He wants his paintings to be big as the sky out west where he grew up, flat as the marshland behind the house. Sunlight pokes through cracks in the boards, and flies buzz in the dusty studio air. Sliding doors rattle on their frames. He sits silent on the floor, staring at the blank canvas. Some artists cover the canvas with a base coat of white paint. Not Jackson. He wants the paint to soak into the surface, leaving bare patches, peeking through the stains of color. Some painters use oil paint or watercolor. Not Jackson. He'll use ordinary house paint from the hardware store to make this painting. Some artists paint pictures of flowers or people or landscapes. Not Jackson. He expresses his thoughts and feelings directly on the canvas, calling it energy and motion made visible. And still he sits, surrounded by the cans of enamel, brushes stiff with dried paint, knives, sticks, a spatula, and canvases, waiting. At last he stands. He chooses a stick and dips it into a can of syrupy paint. Slowly he circles the canvas, stepping around the edges, straddling the corners. Black lines form a tangled web. Now he chooses a brush, working toward the middle. Sprays of color, tan, teal, yellow, and white. An athlete with a paintbrush. He uses his whole body to make the painting. Layers build with each gesture, new colors emerging, blending, and disappearing into the wet surface. He swoops and leaps like a dancer, paint trailing from a brush that doesn't touch the canvas. I want to make a longer and longer line. I want it to keep going. Hours go by like minutes. Suddenly he feels exhausted, used up, inspiration gone. Things get in the way of that flow, like roots blocking a soil line. He puts down the brush and goes into the house to help make supper, his mind filled with thoughts about the wet painting back on the studio floor. So even though he's done for the day, he still kind of has it in his mind that he's not quite finished with it yet. The next afternoon, Jackson prowls around the canvas, studying his work, but he doesn't pick up a brush. Instead, he walks past the beach, past the sandy marshes, and the tall spartina grass that waves in the breeze. He spends hours sitting on a grassy dune watching gulls. At the bar, layers of paint dry. Almost a week passes before he dips a brush and begins his dance. What is he thinking? Does he see the sunlit beach, the patterns of waves, the interlacing branches of trees, the lush summer grass outside his studio? I don't know where my pictures come from. They just come, and paint flows. Jackson listens to jazz recordings in the evenings. He likes musicians who improvise, inventing their own melodies as they play. While he paints, the notes he spin over and over in his memory. Swish and swish again. The rhythm of the brushes matches the rhythm of the music. If a penny fell out of his pocket, he would leave it. An insect lands in the wet paint, there it stays. Nails and tacks become part of the texture. He caresses the surface with sticky paint-stained hands. 1 and 2 handprints across the canvas. So he starts to rub it all in. Some people will be shocked when they see what he has created. Some angry, some confused, some excited, some filled with a happiness they can hardly explain. But everyone will agree, Jackson Pollock is doing something original, painting in a way that no one has ever seen before. And this one is called Number 1, 1950 Lavender Mist, and it sits in the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. So that's what his finished painting looked like. For the next few days, he and his wife Lee plan a vegetable garden. They drive into town in their Model A Ford. He digs for clams on the beach. On the weekend, friends drop by for a party. It will take another week for thick paint to dry. Then Jackson and Lee will tack the canvas to the studio wall. Jackson sits silent, staring at the blank canvas spread on the floor of the barn, waiting. Soon he will dip his brush in a can of paint, lifting it high in the air to begin again. Then he thinks about it and he starts the process all over again. Okay? There were 3 eighth grade students that wrote a book called Masterpiece. And one of the artists that they talked about was Jackson Pollock. This is another one of his paintings. And they say Jackson Pollock was famous for splashing paint onto a canvas, a style that was later named action painting. The colors in Number 5, 1948, created different textures, and many people came to understand it differently. It was sold in 2006 for over $100 million. All right, and that's the painting. So that's Jackson Pollock, a different kind of artist, painter. What we're going to do is we're going to try and create our own kind of action painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a glove on, so I don't get paint all over my hands. I'm going to have to touch a few things here. All right, so with permission from a grown-up, especially if you do some kind of crafty things at home, I just have a box top, okay? And I have a picture that I took out of a coloring book. You can draw your own picture. You can even use a blank sheet of paper, which I'll do that too. But I just took a picture out of a coloring book, and what I did was I taped it down so it won't move. What we're going to do is we are going to take some marbles, different sizes, okay? I'm actually going to use, I think I'm going to use 3 of the same. I'm going to save the big one for later. And you put a little bit of paint. This is washable layer praying paint. I think I got it at the dollar store at Dollar Tree. What we're going to do is we're going to shake it up a little bit, because when paint sits, sometimes it's not very good. All right, let's see if there's a, I have to pull the top off of this. I do. See, I'm going to pull the top off. All right, like I said, this is washable, but you want to do this with a grown-up's permission and their help. I'm used to doing this kind of thing. My niece Gianna, who's in school right now, she'll kind of be mad probably I did this video, but she'll watch it later. So okay, we're going to take the painting in the box. I'm just going to put a few drips of paint up the top. Okay, I'm going to try not to run it. Okay, see? Now I'm going to put the marbles in the paint. I'm going to show that to you. Ready? And then I'm going to let it loose. Ready? Now I'm just going to let it. I think my friend Mr. Miller, the art teacher at GW, has done activities like this using the Spiros. And kind of get it going. Now, I'm going to take out my marbles with my gloves on. I'm going to put them in a little cup so I can wash them to use them again. Now I'm going to show you my paint. I think I put a little too much green paint in. Should have probably put a lot less. So what you want to do is you want to take that picture out and you want to set it someplace safe to dry. I'm going to put it on another piece of paper like this so that I can let it dry. Okay. Let me see. Alright, let's try another one. I'm going to try one for Thanksgiving. I'm going to try a turkey. And I'm going to use this because I think I want some of that green that's left in there. There's a little bit of green left in there. I think I'm going to use that. But I'm going to put a little piece of tape I'm going to tape my turkey down in here. I'm going to take it the other way. I'm going to do it this way. Alright, now I'm going to use a little bit of brown this time. Same brand, got it at the dollar store. Okay, I have to take the cap off here. We'll throw that away in a bit. Okay, now because I already have a little bit of green in there, I'm just going to put a wee bit of brown in here before I throw down some. Alright, let's see what happens here. Just a little bit. Okay, put a little bit. I'm going to put some marbles down before I let them go here. We'll see what happens. Okay, I'm just going to gently shake because you don't want the marbles to come out of the box. Then you got a whole other mess to deal with. So you just very gently shake. See? I'm picking up a little bit of that green, which is kind of nice. It's kind of giving it a different. And the more colors you use, just remember that the paint that you have in there, the paint that you used before it, it's probably going to be a little bit wet still. So if you have a couple different boxes, you might want to use certain colors in different boxes. Okay, now this one came out quite different. I'm going to take my marbles out, put them in a bowl. Alright, and there is my turkey. It's kind of Jackson Pollock-y, don't you think? Yeah, okay. Alright, so there's a little art, little steam challenge. I like Jackson Pollock. I like to draw and I like to color on paint on canvas. So maybe this will inspire you to do the same. And I'll include a flip grid so that if you do this, you can share your drawing with us. Remember, please ask a grown-up, someone at home, for help, because it could tend to be a little messy. So you want to do it very carefully. Keep all of your mess, try to keep it inside the box. Remember, nice, gentle roll of the marbles. All right, till next time. Bye.